Today I want to show you how we put these little guys in their little brooder. We just got them today. So let's set up their home. And I wanted to show you guys a secret tip that we do to the water to help them get a really strong start so that we ensure that we don't lose any of these chicks to start with. You never know, but the more you can do and the healthier you can keep them, the better chances you are of having really strong, healthy chicks. We're Sebastian and Holly, and 10 years ago, we opened up our wellness business. Since then, we've been teaching people all about health and wellness. Flash forward to the pandemic, we were able to buy 3 acres of abandoned land that was soon to become our dream homestead.
But look at how fun is that? We got so many beaks.
We designed the house and our landscape on our iPad Pro, and with the help of friends, family, and lots of how-to YouTube videos, we were able to build the entire thing by ourselves. Oh, and did I mention that we also own a nursery? Kind of by accident. The nursery exploded during the pandemic and we converted it over to an online nursery. We even began shipping plants nationwide. Join us as we try to keep up gardening, preserving food, managing our businesses, and somehow trying to stay sane. So this is going to be a super simple, easy setup, low budget, and it doesn't need to be fancy at all. You can even use a cardboard box if you want. Any container that will fit the chicks in. So this is going to be their home for just a little bit. They're going to grow out of this really quickly, but this is a Sterilite 30-gallon tub. It doesn't need to be this big. The main thing you want is to make sure you have one side that you can have the lamp on where the heat is, and one side where they can get away from the heat, that they can move back and forth. And if you look at this bin, it kind of looks kind of dirty. It was outside a little bit. It just has a little dirt. It's fine, it's good for them. It's just dirt in here. We've used it many times for chicks, so that's why it's kind of stained. So we're gonna go ahead and put some pine shavings in here. And you don't need a super thick layer because we are gonna change this out for now, it's probably gonna be every 3, maybe even up to 5 days. It just depends how much they poop and how filthy it gets. And then I just dump these in my compost pile. And then I'm just going to add some more shavings after that. So you do have to clean this every so often. Honestly, your nose will tell you when it needs to be clean. And you'll see that they're kind of trampling all over their poop. So just to keep their feet clean, to keep this clean in general, make sure you do clean it and just keep an eye on it. I can't tell you exact times of how much. It just depends how dirty it is. So I'd say just a little thicker than that. So what is that? Maybe 3 to 4 inch layer is all I do. Some people go thicker, some people go thinner, but I'm happy with this. That's all I need. Look at that, we got a rogue chick.
I didn't think they could get out.
A chick on the loose. Get back with your friends. In the wild, this is how you die. I didn't really talk about the flock party. I'm not sponsored or anything. This one is not cheap, I will say. It's kind of expensive, but I have purchased the finer shavings and it has a lot of dust and it makes more dust than this one does. So this is why I don't mind spending a little more on this one, because it gets dusty and when you go in there, if you're prone to allergies, it just bleh. And chicks have really sensitive respiratory systems. So if they're kicking up a bunch of dust from this, from the thinner pine shavings that kick up a lot of dust, it can really affect their lungs and the respiratory system. So it's not a must-have. You can go cheaper, but I just thought I'd put that in there. And we got this from Tractor Supply. If you have a local Tractor Supply, check them out. They might have it. If not, Amazon maybe might have it. So this is the heat lamp that we use. You can also get it from Tractor Supply. I know a lot of people are afraid of these heat lamps because they do get pretty hot, but it's been rumored that they can cause fires, especially if you're in a barn and you're raising chicks in a barn or in a house in a garage. If these fall on the pine shavings, something can happen. It's been rumored that they can cause a fire. So we do check this every day. It is in our shop building and I'm not concerned. We've used this one for years. It does have a very heavy duty clamp and it clamps on tightly. The light bulb is in there. Everything's good. It has this little protection here so they can't quite fly up to it. Okay, so as you can see, I have this heat lamp on one side of the bin. And you might say this is pretty close. At first, when the chicks are small, this might be seemingly a little close. You can also put a thermometer down there. It's surprising that they actually like it pretty warm. If you think about them being under their mama hen, it is pretty warm under there. But just put your hand, have a thermometer, make sure it's not too warm. But if it does get too hot, they can actually regulate their own temperature by having a cool side of the bin. So this is really, really important because over here, you can't feel the heat. But over here, it's kind of where it starts. So you want a cool side and a warm side. you're gonna wanna get one of these. It's called a drinker base. I got these at the Tractor Supply, but you can get these anywhere. It just, you can screw on a mason jar, you can screw on, they come with like a plastic bottle too, but you do want to make sure it's a quart size, regular mouth mason jar, filled up with water. And then the secret to immunity to help, this has helped our chickens. We've raised a lot of chickens in the past, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years now, I don't remember. But it's always been really good for us to do, and we've noticed that they turn out a lot healthier and stronger and more robust when they're chicks when we do this. This is apple cider vinegar. I'll see in the description, I can put a, like an actual recipe. I've always eyeballed this. I just put a little splash, probably half a teaspoon or so. You can probably do a little more. Looks good. I can kind of smell it and just kind of tell it's enough, but I will put a recipe in the description for those of you rule followers. But I did want a recipe the first time I did this because I want to make sure I'm not screwing it up and I'm not hurting the chickens. The chicks, I should say at this point. And then next, we do have some garlic from our garden that we harvested. And we do like to put a little bit of garlic. I'm gonna do about half a bulb's worth, but these bulbs are kind of small. And the apple cider vinegar and the garlic really do help give them a strong start to really fight off any disease, boost their immune system. They just seem to be a little more robust when they're on that. This is called magic water. You can also add honey, but we ran out of honey. The actual recipe has honey in it, but I'm not gonna show you the honey because, and if it has a little bits of garlic in there, you want that, they can eat that, no problem. And then you would add the honey. Typically you can warm up the water a little bit and so that the honey dilutes well, but this is all I'm gonna do. And then go ahead and put the base on. I'm gonna shake it up just a little bit and I'm gonna get garlic water all over myself. Make sure you do that. Now I'm gonna make sure I put the food and the water on the cool side of the bin. So don't put it under the heat lamp because if they're too hot, then they're gonna go eat by where the hot side is and they won't regulate their temperature. They're gonna prioritize food. So make sure to put the food on the opposite side of the heat. The chicks are cold. You can see right here, they're huddling up together. They're getting a little cold. So let's go ahead and put them in and then I can show you the rest of their home and how to make their home. Okay, so Luca's gonna help me and we're gonna grab chick by chick and we're gonna go ahead and begin to teach them how to drink the water and where the water is. So we take one chick at a time. And then the water itself, we're gonna make sure that it's actually dumping the water. Sometimes the garlic bits can clog it up. Quick tip, when you place your water in there, make sure it is level because the water will either dump out or it won't pour out evenly. So now we're gonna go ahead and dip their little beaks into the water to introduce them just like this. And then you show them and then go ahead and keep placing them one by one. Okay, so you can go ahead and dip their beak just like that in the water.
Those guys want to be in the hot side.
And then, now they know where the water is. Then we're gonna go ahead and repeat that 25 times. I think we got 25 chicks.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's all the chicks dipped. You gotta dip your chicks.
Gotta dip your chick.
But look at them now. They already know where the water is and they're like, oh, thank you. I was in the mail for a few days and now I get water. I bet they're parched. You can see some are moving and happy. And some are loving the heat on this side. You can see they're just getting cozy and warm.
Most of them are on that side.
If it's too hot for them, they will not go on this side. So we know we're at a good temperature. If you do want to go ahead and get a thermometer, just to make sure you know that your heat is not too hot and you're not cooking your chickens, you can go ahead and do that. The thermometers are pretty inexpensive. Okay, so now that we have them all situated, they're drinking water, they're getting warm. I wanted to get them in the heat right away. When you get your chickens in the mail, you want to make sure that you do that right away, and then we can go ahead and add the food and all the other stuff. The next thing Luca's helping me is chick grits. We dedicate a little bin or container just to chick grit. You can use any container you have around, a Tupperware, even a Parmesan cheese container that you have from the fridge. Save something. You don't need to buy anything for this, but just put chick grit. This is what we buy. We buy it also at Tractor Supply. It's the Dumore brand chick grit. You do want to make sure that there's the small, it's called the chick grit, and then they have the grit for the bigger chickens. Don't give them too big of a grit. You want just the small little bits. This is going to help them digest their food, to get the little rocks, which is essentially all it is. It's little rocks that they eat, and it'll go into their gizzards, and it'll help them crush up and digest their food. And then you can also simulate pecking like the mom would, and show them that this is grit.
They look like they want food.
It's not food, but it's something.
Okay, so we ended up taking that little feeder because I realized the bigger one, and I knew this, but my brain's not working today, was too big. And, you know, I want them to have room to roam around. I have about 25 or so chicks in this bin. Do you need to cram in that many chicks in this little bin? No, you do not. Actually, this is probably going to last about a week, maybe 2. By the time I need to bump them up into and split them into 2 bins, and then they should be fine. They're gonna stay in this brooder for a little bit until they get their feathers, and then we'll take them outside. But you can see they're going nuts. I ended up splitting this grit and feed, and then they're going nuts over the water. And another tip I like to mention is I like to take some of the grit, like Luca has in his hand right here, and I do like to sprinkle it all over here because it does teach them to forage some. And it teaches them to look for food. So here I got some chick grit. You just sprinkle it all over. I'm trying not to get in their fluffy little butts, but that's all, you know. And then you sprinkle it everywhere. So that gives them a little entertainment. It will help them learn how to forage and search for food. All right, so some quick chick tips. We got these chicks from Murray McMurray Hatchery. We've ordered a lot of chicks from them, and we've always had really good success. They seem to be really healthy when we get them, and we've only lost a few in the last many years that we've raised these. And forewarning for those of you that are beginners and you're just getting started with chicks, I want you to know that you're gonna check on them every day just to make sure nobody's dead. And sometimes they will look like they're dead. So let me show you some signs of chicks that might look dead. That chick right there is sleeping. It's really cute. It just woke up because somebody messed with it. But they're gonna forage, they're gonna eat, they're gonna drink water, they're gonna go in the heat, and they're gonna sleep a lot. And when they're sleeping, you're gonna think they might be dead. So just a forewarning to be prepared so that you don't get scared when you see that. They'll pretty much go through food and water, this little container, once a day, sometimes twice. For the first week, I'm gonna check these chicks 2 to 3 times, even more a day, honestly, probably more than that, just to make sure they have enough water, to make sure the heat lamp isn't too close, or sometimes if it tips over, falls a little bit, I want to make sure the water level is good and that they always have water, because if they don't have enough water and they have too much heat and they can't cool down, that can really affect them in the long run. And then also, I'm just going to check it for how soiled it is. If I need to swap it out, clean it out, I can go ahead and do that. Like I mentioned, they're only going to last in this bin like maybe a week, maybe 2. It's what I have right now. I just got them in the mail. It's a busy day. I just wanted them safe, I wanted them warm, and I wanted them fed. And once they get to, this guy's fooling me looking dead. See, they just lay like that. And once they get a little bigger, I'll split them into separate bins, however many bins, so that they're comfortable. This is not like a super duper tutorial on raising chicks and chickens from little chicks to bigger chickens. But if you do want more content, if you want to follow along the life cycle of these chicks, you want to see them, you know, when they get their feathers, how we move them out, all that kind of stuff, let me know in the comments. And we can definitely talk about that, give more tips on that. But that's about it. I wanted to keep this video quick and simple, budget friendly, and just if you're an absolute beginner or even not, and you wanted to know how to get this set up, it's really simple. You don't need much equipment. It's pretty cheap. One thing I didn't talk about is the feed though. So we get Reedy Fork Farms organic feed. It is a chick starter feed, which is more pulverized than a layer feed or broiler feed. It has a great texture. They can eat it pretty easily. Just make sure they get that grit in there. And then the last final tip is I built this frame. You don't have to build anything. You can just use chicken wire and lay it on top. You don't have to do this right now because they don't have their feathers in yet. But once they get a little older, they will start to hop out of the bin a little bit. So I do like to make a little frame. I just used 1x2 wood and I just nailed it. And then I put some chicken wire in the back. If you are not handy or don't have anybody that's handy and you don't feel like doing anything like this, just cut out a little bit of chicken wire and lay it on top. And then you can use clamps on either side and just clamp the chicken wire down. Even the clamp of the heat lamp, you can use that one side to hold the chicken wire down. So if you don't feel like building anything or doing anything, that works. But this is the shape or the size of the top of this. And whenever they get a little bigger, I'm gonna go ahead and do that so that they don't flop out. I'll put this on first and then I'll put the heat lamp. I'll actually clamp the heat lamp onto this and the heat lamp will actually be up higher. So it is nice to have a little lid or something like this so that you can bump up the heat lamp the older they get. You can always put a stool or something next to the bin so that you can go ahead and raise up the level of that heat lamp too, if you need to. Again, there's no one size fits all. You just have to kind of watch them as they grow. They grow really fast and you have to pretty much every day adapt and do something to make sure they're getting enough heat and then also that they can cool down. Make sure the water level's good and they have food and grit and they'll be happy. They're pretty resilient and pretty forgiving, so they're very beginner friendly, but hopefully these tips were helpful. If you guys have raised your own chicks or you have your own advice, feel free to share it in the comments. We love to learn from everybody and people get to kind of glean from each other. And then one last final tip, final tip is, I can't stop coming up with the tips, is I do like to introduce them when they're chicks, about a week old or so, to some garden scraps. So if you have some lettuce or some kale, some spinach, some herbs, the herbs are really, really good for their immune system. It will help somewhat deworm them if needed. You can also put some diatomaceous earth in there to help. These are all extra fluffy things, not needed. But you know, if you have some parsley or some basil, some oregano, some thyme, just throw little leaves in there and they'll get used to those tastes. They'll start pecking at them and eating them, and it's good for them. They like their leafy greens a lot. Leafy greens are high in calcium, so they'll enjoy that as well. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna try to keep this simple so that our heads don't blow up with too much information and you can go ahead and feel comfortable and feel equipped to go ahead and do this yourself. Whether you are raising chickens for your coop to lay or whether you're raising meat birds, broilers, or the layers, essentially. But that's it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. I promise this is the last thing because I know you guys will ask, how many chicks can you fit per bin? If you're wondering how many to get for your flock, for your coop, whatever it is, for a broiler, for meat, you can fit per 3 foot by 2 foot. It says about 20 chicks in there. I'm cramming mine in a little bit. This is probably about 2 foot by 3.5 feet that I got going on here. I got 25, 26-ish. But again, they're just gonna stay here for like a week, maybe 2, depending on how big they get. And then I'm going to get another bin and eventually maybe even a 3rd bin because I don't have a big brooder. I don't always get this many chicks, so I don't wanna have a huge brooder. So if you're doing this for the first time and you're not gonna always have chicks, again, it's just an inexpensive way to do it. Luca's gonna go ahead and introduce some greens. That's some kale and some parsley. They're just gonna peck at it. You can break it up into small bits. You can put it in. If by tonight they don't eat it all because they are not used to it, we're gonna remove it. Again, it's not advised to do it usually like right at the beginning. You do wanna give them a little time, but I just did this so that you can see that they're actually gonna get curious and peck at it. But if you think about it, if the chicks are with the hen and the mama's going around showing them what to eat in the grass. They're getting a little grass, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I forgot this water actually came with its own bottle, plastic bottle, and we realized, and I forgot that the mason jar does not give the hole enough space for the water to flow out quickly. Since I have so many chicks in here, they were drinking the water faster than it could come out. And now the water can pour out with this water bottle. So that's why we switched that out. So another tip, if you guys are getting this exact waterer, just make sure that the water flow is quick enough because they drink a lot.